So while you guys were eating or resting, any impression, any question?
Question. Yeah. Third question.
Yeah.
Okay. If I would like to practice what I learned from today on the next, on the next time,
Mm-hmm.
would love to learn in order to transform my life. But at the same time, I'm so busy with everything at work. How do we, you know, how do I handle that?
Okay. Do you want to uh, go against the principles of universal principles and natural laws? Are you trying to get somewhere before you the one of the we talked about causality, right? We talked about the law of causality earlier. Okay. Let's try that one. Let's do another one. Causality. Okay. There's a formula for causality that says that the seed plus the condition will bring about the fruit. Okay. The seed plus the condition will bring about the fruit. What we're doing here is planting the seed. We're shifting your awareness and perspective about yourself, about the reality. The condition are the people, your interaction with other people. This is your chance to practice with the right awareness. So basically, this is awareness. Okay, this is affinity with people. And this is the desired life. If you want to practice, then first you need to have the appropriate kind of seed. And that seed comes from this interaction. Okay, this sharing. You're going to take the seed and you're going to apply it in your interaction with other people, and then eventually you will experience the kind of life that you want. If you want to jump in and practice without the seed, then there's nothing to practice. Okay. Fortunately, I have already given you 3 seeds. The seed of serenity, which is inner peace, the seed of magnanimity, which is tolerance and kindness and acceptance of yourself and other people, and the seed of honoring gratitude. If you can just practice rotating among those 3, then you can eventually experience the life that you want. If you got nothing better to do, just be at peace. If you have to think about something, think about 7 holistic health or 7 holistic wealth. Ask the kind of question, how am I going to be rich in wisdom, rich in attitude, rich in character and integrity? How am I going to be healthy? How is my relations going to improve? Right? If you got nothing better to do, be at peace. If you have to think about something, just think about the 7 holistic health. If you have to work on something, you have to work on something, you're going to work on what's called the 7 great givings of life. And we haven't gotten to that yet, which is more seed you need to get before you can start practicing. Okay. Um, you get there. It's a little premature to ask about practice when we haven't had the appropriate awareness and perception just yet. Even though I have given you a shortcut by saying that you should initiate being at peace, being magnanimous, and being grateful, but you don't know how to do that just yet, huh? Yeah, we don't know that. You can't practice what you don't have. We don't know the skills just yet. I haven't shared it with you, so it's a little premature. But for now, we already talk about the principle of light. You can start by simply thinking about the 7 holistic health. I know your life is going to be busy. Everybody's life is going to be busy after this sharing. We're going to go back to our life. We're going to get swamped with work. But what's going to be different from now on when you go back to work is this part. You can continue to do work, but instead of stressing about work, you focus on being. You just be at peace, be magnanimous, and be grateful. Okay? That is a practice. But practice take a lot of effort. As you learn through this interaction, there is a more effective way of reaching that state of health beside from practice. It is a shift in awareness and perspective. And that is what my job is for you, is I'm helping you shift your perspective so that once you experience a new perspective, once you have a new paradigm, a new way of looking at things, it becomes a permanent change in your way of being and thereby a change in your life without having to make the effort of practicing. We practice, but there is another way to get there without having to expend too much effort in practicing. It is a shift in perspective. Okay, that is why we do this. And Vincent, don't worry. After this, I'm going to send you the the recordings. While we drive to work, we drive from work. During the time of driving, you can listen. Okay, you can listen to recording. That is your learning time. Okay? If our time is limited, we can listen to this recording. There are different sessions. There's a Vietnamese version as well. You speak Vietnamese pretty well, right? I'll send you the Vietnamese. Huh? The Vietnamese is better in English, right?
Mine is ugly.
Okay, that's fine. So I will send you both the Vietnamese and the English recordings of this teaching, and you just take driving time to be learning time. Okay, when you're at work, you still do work, but instead of stressing, you're focusing on being. And then during outside of work time, during lunch, for example, and you're chewing, right? Then you can listen to the recording or watch the recording while you're chewing. When you're in the bathroom, you listen to the recording. There are people who listen while they're sleeping. In fact, many people find that somehow listening to the recording help them sleep. So if you have a problem with sleep, maybe listening to this recording, you will tap into the energy of serenity, which is inner peace, and it's going to help people sleep. Some people listen to this and they fall asleep. And
I
that's
would
fine.
love it. I would love it.
Yeah.
Tonight
Yeah.
I stopped listening to this.
Ron, Ron wanted to say something.
I just wanted to ask, like, when you were in Mentor 5, were you still working while you were taking Mentor 5?
Yeah. I had to ask my boss to shift my schedule a little bit. Okay, so I work from 7. Typically, my schedule is from 7 to 5:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I asked my boss, and that I only work 4 days a week. So during the time when I was a Mentor 5, I asked my boss to let me change to 5 days a week. I would work from, I think, 7 to 2 or something like that, right? That's like 5.5 hours. And then I would go and I would attend the mentor lecture, and then I would come back at like 3 or 4, something like that. I would work for another hour, hour and a half. So it comes out to be, instead of 8 hours a day times 5, it'll be like 7.5 hours times 5. So so I would be spending about 35, 37 hours at work instead of 40 hours at work.
I'm just wondering how I'm going to juggle mine around as well. I mean, I'm semi-retired, so I kind of run my own schedule, but
yeah, that would be more simple for you. Okay, for me, even though my boss allowed me to do that, my coworker were not very happy because
Yeah.
it kind of messed up their schedule. You know, during the time when I was gone, they had work. They had to figure a way to cover my time. Even though the total amount of time that I spent at work was not that much reduced, to other people, it felt like I was absent more than I really was.
Mhm.
And so that creates some negative affinity. Remember, we're going to talk about that it creates some negative affinity with other people. It caused some negativity with respect to my relationship with my coworker. And so I saw that. And so now, even when I am attending the master's course, I'm not taking time off of work. I just record it and then I listen and I study afterward outside of work time.
Mhm.
You know, there's a lesser benefit. It's a little bit more challenging, but at least I am maintaining that positive affinity with my worker, right? We've been talking about integrity with respect to your four debt of gratitude: your family, your organization, your society, you know, your world.
Mhm.
Maintain integrity with respect to yourself, your family, your organization, and to the world is the definition of integrity. And so I've been working on maintaining my positive affinity with my coworker, even as I am doing the studying. And so I'm back to the 4-day, 10 hours. I spend most of Wednesday studying, and so that's why I share the material on Wednesday evening.
Mhm.
And my work hour is like everybody else. It is 10 hours a day times 4 days. Yeah, good question. You gotta play around, and it depends on your fortune. Okay, the amount of blessing that we have accumulated. We use up our fortune whenever we incur favor from other people.
Yeah.
And for me,
I'm taking mentor 7, so I'll figure out something.
yeah. For me, I feel like I actually used up that fortune. Okay, that whole affinity with respect to my boss and my coworker. Okay.
Mhm.
Every time we enjoy some benefit, we are using up sort of like a credit in our good fortune account. We'll talk about that in a religious and spiritual perspective later. Okay, Vincent?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your question. Thank you, Vincent, for your question. How do we practice? Okay, so that's a little bit of a tip, right? Does that answer your question? The way of being?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, you can practice. That's how you practice. Okay. When you got nothing better to do, let me I'll add another one. Okay, sure, I'll add another one.
What's something to you know put
Mhm.
in? That was something that I could listen to before sleep. But when I go to bed, I couldn't. I don't sleep well.
I
Now
will give you the Vietnamese version, and I think the Vietnamese version put a lot of people to sleep.
that's really cool.
Or it could keep you awake. There's a there, it is an energy level. There's an energy level in the speaking of the master that will cause a shift in a person's own energy level if it is a mismatch for you. So it'll put somebody to sleep, or it could make you stay awake. But you might stress out for a little bit, and then you will experience the transformation, and then you will get better. Okay, don't worry about it.
Can you tonight?
Yeah, people transform in a very short amount of time listening to the Vietnamese version. Okay, okay. My energy is not at their level yet. Okay, I'm not super high energy. All I have is the concept, I share from a knowledge perspective, a conceptual perspective. I hope to one day be able to infect you with my balanced energy. Okay, okay. Okay, we were talking about realization. Okay, realization. So let's jump right into realization. Important concept. So you can write this word down for me. The word realization. Okay, realization. The word realization is simply a word that has the word real in it, right? Realize is to make something into reality. Okay, what does it mean to realize something? To basically turn it into reality. If you have an inquiry, right? Answer to long sought inquiry. If you have a long sought inquiry, it is all in your head. You don't know what it's like to have an answer, but once you realize it, it becomes real to you. The answer becomes real. It becomes a part of your reality. Okay, and at that moment, you experience a transformation. Your reality shift. It is no longer the same when we experience a realization. When it comes to realization, there are different degrees of realization. There's a sort of what we call the small realization that we kind of have throughout our life. When my son was learning to tie his shoes, he had an inquiry. He didn't know he had it, but when we were learning to tie our shoes, some part of our mind wonder, well, how do you tie your shoe in such a way that it is tight, but it doesn't tangle up and it turns into a knot, an impossible knot. As we're trying to figure out how to tie our shoes, at some moment we'll realize that if we put our finger in that cross between the two laces, then we can bend the bow, dip the ring through the bow, and pull the string apart, and it's tight. And then from that moment on, we know how to tie our shoes. It is a small realization, right? And we go through our life, we experience small realization all the time. That is how we grow. That is how we mature, right? So it's just normal part of life to experience realization. Small little light bulb. Okay, it changed our life, because before that we are dependent on figuring out how to tie our shoes. But the moment that we know how to tie our shoes, then our life changed from there. We no longer dependent. For example, my son no longer dependent on me to tie his shoes. His life has changed the moment he realized how to tie his shoes. Small realization. And then there are the bigger one. There are the great realization that people call enlightenment. Okay, there's a great realization that people call enlightenment. These are the kind of life-changing realization. It's still realization, but it's life-changing. There's a word light in it. Right? We're working on the principle of light. The word enlightenment meaning to have received, to be in the light. Using an example from the Christian tradition in the Bible, there's a man named Saul. Saul is a man who used to persecute Christians. He would arrest Christians, he would persecute them because they were followers of Jesus Christ. Saul persecuted Christians. One day on his way, he was riding a horse on his way to go and persecute Christians. He experienced a flash of light. Later on, he reported that experience. He called it, he was hit by a flash of light, blinding light, that blinded him for 3 days. And after during the 3 days that he was blinded by light, he was visited by Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ changed his life. He realized the truth about Jesus Christ, and after that, he became a Christian. That is a great enlightenment that shifts a person's life, entire life, from a person who persecuted Christian to becoming a Christian himself. Not only that, all of Christianity in the world owe a debt of gratitude to Saul, whose name was changed to Paul. Okay? Previously, when Jesus Christ was preaching ideas about salvation, he was focusing on the Jewish people. But the Jewish people didn't really accept it. it was Saul, who his name later changed to Paul, who spread the ideas to non-Christian people, to the Roman, to the Greeks, and now to the rest of the world. And so now the rest of the world gets to enjoy the teaching of Jesus Christ, whereas the Jewish people didn't accept it. That is because Saul or Paul experienced a moment of enlightenment where he described it as being blinded by light. And then he realized the truth about Jesus Christ. Okay. That is a way of saying it. Okay. Jewish people, at that time, they experienced a lot of political and social and spiritual suffering. Okay. They were dominated, colonized by the Roman. They were spiritually starved. Their religion did not give them the kind of fulfillment that they wanted to. And Jesus came to teach them a certain truth about inner peace, which is serenity. He teaches them about magnanimity, which is tolerant and accepting and being forgiving. And he taught them about unconditional love. And he called it the kingdom of God. Okay. At that time, the Jewish people and many people in Jesus' time thought that Jesus was talking about the physical kingdom. They thought that Jesus was going to become a king who ruled over this worldly place and become a king of the Jew. It's like the country of Israel right now. They thought that Jesus was going to become that king. But instead, Jesus was talking about the kingdom of God, which is a state of being at peace, the state of being totally acceptant and loving of other people, the state of being grateful for everything and everyone that you have. And it is through these realization that people like Saul and the disciple of Jesus Christ came to become Christian. They realized that no, Jesus wasn't talking about a political, social replacement of the political system. He didn't intend to become a king. He was talking about the kingdom of God, which is a state of being whole, perfect, and complete, of being at peace. Okay? So that's the idea. That's the idea when a person recognized the truth about things. And to Paul, the truth was so profound that he said that he was blinded by light. And when he opened his eye, he saw the truth. Another word that people associate with realization is awakening. Awakening. It is as if we are all asleep. It is as if we are not fully conscious of who we are. And so awakening is a state of realization, an ultimate state of realization, to truly awake to the truth of life and the truth of ourselves. And the word awakening is often associated with the Buddha. The word Buddha literally means the awakened one. When the Buddha was young, he was a prince named Gautama Siddhartha. Okay, he was a prince. He has a kingdom. He has fortune. He has riches. He had a wife. He had children. But he had an inquiry. He had a long sought inquiry. Why did people suffer? He walks out of his palace and he saw people who were sick. Why do we get sick? He saw people dying. Why do we get old and dying? Why do people suffer? And so he went on a discovery, a self-discovery path. He meditated. He performed different kind of ascetic practices. And at some point, he sat down and meditated for 49 days. And after 49 days, he became enlightened. He came to understand everything about everything. Okay. And thereby people call him the awakened one, which is the Pali word for the Buddha. So, so there's a promise with this, philosophical sharing, is that when we take this step-by-step journey, with a roadmap, we will help each other uncover truth about ourselves, and at some point, we will come to a decent level of realization, if not complete realization, about human life and experience. With that realization about human life and experience, we can start taking ownership of our life. We can start taking ownership of our health, ownership of our happiness, ownership of our peace, and affect our relationship with other people. And if we can affect our relationship and cause other people to also experience peace and happiness, well, guess what? We have just built the kingdom of God right here on earth. Okay, if we can experience a state of inner peace wherever, whenever, and if we can package that, materialize that, inner peace is non-material, right? Inner peace is non-material, right? Non-material. And if we materialize inner peace and we can package it and give it to other people, and other people experience inner peace, and then the whole world experience inner peace, then the world is at peace. It is world peace. What better definition of the kingdom of God other than world peace? Not only that people experience inner peace, but they experience the six holistic wealth, that people have wisdom, they have good attitude, they have good character, they have integrity, they are physically healthy, look beautiful, they have capability to perform things, whatever they want, and then the material possession becomes abundant. When everybody in the world has these 7 candles of holistic health and wealth, look like the kingdom of God to me. Okay. And that's why we do what we do. Okay. It is a process through which we come to realize something important. Okay, there's small enlightenment, there's awakening, there is the total awakening. Okay, let's pick the word total awakening. Okay. Small, there are sort of instant. Some enlightenment takes time, it takes practice, it takes inquiry, and other enlightenment, just by just being here, you might catch an instant enlightenment. What we do, we try here is to reduce your process of learning and maturation and growing. We try to limit your pain and suffering in the process of growth and maturity so that you can experience some degree of instant realization about human life and experience. Okay, and once again, realization is a change. Okay, so instead of working to change ourselves, okay, instead of working to remove the darkness from the room, we just start to go to work on our wisdom, our character, and our attitude. Okay, so on the same topic, let's go another page. Okay. So this is shorten it up. We're going to use the word realize instead of realization. Okay, in order to realize something, let's make a nice little heart. Realize something is like an answer, okay? But before we get to the answer, usually we go through some degree of questioning. Questioning. We basically ask some question about life. But usually, simple question doesn't bring about great realization. It is the interrogative inquiry that will lead to realization. When you interrogate, you ask again and again and again. You repeat the question in your mind, sometime through many years. Small interrogative inquiries will lead to small realization. How do I tie my shoes? Great inquiries will lead to great realization. Why do people suffer? Why are there evils in the world? How do we escape from pain and suffering? How do we enter the kingdom of God? Okay. So when it comes to realization, there are different ways, different approach. I mean, how do you say, different path to arriving at realization. One path is through experience. Right? We experience life. Sometimes pain and suffering will teach us a lesson, and we realize that there's a better way to go about things. Right? Most of us have realized things thanks to the experience of life. That's why we tend to honor people who are experienced. Another way to come to a realization is to contemplate. Contemplate. T-E. Right? These are the great thinkers of our times. The scientists, the philosophers, they think, contemplate to think. And through the process of thinking and turning their mind, they come to a certain realization. But both experience and contemplate sort of come with a price, effort and time. Okay? Especially experience. Some people are very proud of experiencing all the pain and suffering. But oftentimes, pain and suffering doesn't necessarily teach you anything. Do you notice that some people keep on repeating the same mistake over and over and over? Some people are very attached to pain and suffering. They pride themselves as being strong, that they are survivors. Their sense of identity is associated with their being able to survive. But you look at them and you see, why do they keep on making the same mistake over and over? Why does the same woman keep on going from one abusive husband to another? Why does a business person keep on getting in debt and never really learn anything? So experience doesn't necessarily give us what we really want, okay, despite pain and suffering. Contemplation is a good way too, but that can take a long time. There is a third way that wise people have taught. It is through the path of study and practice. And since Vince has already asked us, right, study and practice. We study from other people that have already gone before us. We practice the best practices so that we can avoid the painful experience, so that we can skip having to contemplate. But if we want to learn math in school, we don't have to reinvent math. We just go to school. We learn math. Somebody else has already contemplated math. Somebody else have already experienced how math works. So a fastest way to come to a new realization about life and about everything is to simply study from the people who have already gone before. Naturally, in your life, you're going to encounter experience. You're going to learn from experience. You're going to start thinking. We're going to activate the principle of mental activation. That's contemplating. But it is the act of learning from the people who have gone before that will enable us to reach a point of realization or enlightenment much quicker than if we just reinvent the wheel ourselves. We're fortunate today because we have the teaching of the Buddha. We are fortunate today because we have the teaching of Jesus Christ, of all the great sages of our history. Imagine having to experience life and contemplate and come to the same realization that those great beings did. Imagine how long that would take. Right? So we take advantage of the fact that those successful people, those great beings have already gone before us, and so we just simply learn from them. Okay. There's a saying, it doesn't matter how long we have been alive, it is really when we realize something that matters. Okay. In other words, how long we have been alive is not as important as when we realize something important about life. A person can go through life, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of life experiencing pain and suffering, and they may not realize anything. They will die poor, they will die sad, they will die with regret. On the other hand, a person who applies themselves to studying and practice the principles of universe, the natural laws, the success of the successful people, then a young person can come to realize the truth about life while they're still young, and they get to enjoy life with health, with happiness, with peace. Do you see the difference? Experience is going to come to us, but if we are attached to, if we insist on experiencing life in order to learn, then we're going to experience a lot of pain and suffering before we actually learn anything. In fact, it is not the pain and suffering that has any value. It is the lesson that has the value. I think about that. It is only through the lesson after the pain and suffering. We experience something undesirable, maybe broken relationship, poor health, failed finance, and we can continue to repeat that over and over, and we see those people experience those pain and suffering all the time, and they never learn anything. It is only when they actually learn anything that the learning has any value. Did you guys get that point? In other words, doesn't matter how long you've lived, doesn't matter how many experiences you've had. It is the moment of learning, the moment of realization that will cause a shift in your life. It is a transformative moment. And the simplest way, the fastest way is to study and practice. The other way is row the boat, use effort, go against the current. You can do that if you want. Many people do. But they get to pay the price with pain and suffering. And then after you realize something, contemplate some more, you practice some more, and eventually the moment of realization is not enough. That's just like a thought, okay? But as we think about it, we start to comprehend it. We have a full understanding of it. We can reason it, explain it. And then from that comprehension, we experience transformation. At the moment of realization, that nothing really happens until you start to understand it and you start to take action that change your life. Formation. Okay. And transformation include new paradigm, okay, new action, thereby new reality. Okay. When Paul was hit by light, he realized the truth. But it is not until he started to fully comprehend it, until he started to take new action, spread the message about Jesus Christ, that he has a new reality. Same thing with the Buddha. He meditated for 49 days. He came to total awakening, but it's not until he fully understands that he is also connected to other people, that he began to teach other people. He began to materialize the non-material aspect of himself, that he create a better world, that he create a new reality, a reality of peace and enlightenment. Okay? So realization is important, and it comes from the interrogative inquiries. Okay, now here's the thing. This is critical. The direction of your realization depends on the direction of your interrogative inquiries. Your interrogative inquiries has a positive direction. It will lead to a positive realization. If your interrogative inquiry has a negative direction, it will lead to a negative realization. Okay, this is important. Not all realization is great realization. Okay, not all realization actually make your life better. You see, some realization can be very detrimental. For example, a woman marries an abusive man. He beats her, he abuses her, he insults her, he belittles her. She leaves him, she marries another man. He abuses her, he beats her, he insults her. And so she starts to wonder, why do I keep on, she starts to wonder, why are men so evil in the world? Why do I keep on getting, abused? If her interrogative inquiry is on a negative direction, why are men so evil in the world? At some point, she's going to realize that, oh, men are evil. And she will never marry again. Or she would do what the book or the movie The Great Expectation did. She will go and marry a man, and she would intentionally break his heart because men are evil. Because she had been asking the kind of question that is along the line of the negative, and so she realized the negative. On the other hand, another woman who marries a man and he's abusive, and she thinks along the line of, okay, how can I make this relationship positive? How can I become the kind of person that will attract the kind of man who is loving and honoring? And then she might, one day she will come to a realization that, oh, maybe I am the one who is causing the man to be positive or negative. And in order to get the quality man, then I need to be a quality woman. You kind of see the difference? It is the line of inquiries that will cause a person to go positive or realize positive or negative. Okay, so let's go back. So when it comes to our realization, there is the this idea of what we desire. Okay, the desire. We consider what we want. Okay. If we ask the kind of question that is called positive, then what that is, it aligns with our desire. On the other hand, if we ask the kind of question that goes against our desire, then we're going to realize the negative. This is why so many people want good thing for themselves, but they don't get it because they have been asking the wrong kind of question. Instead of asking, how can I become the kind of person that will attract positive, healthy, happy relationship? That's positive, aligning with desire, assuming you want a relationship that is happy and positive and loving. A person will go and ask, why are men so evil? Why am I being abused all the time? Why does my friend get all the best men and I am stuck with the jerks? Well, you don't want the jerk. You don't want abusive men, but you ask the kind of question that goes against your desire, and so you're going to get the reality that matches with your question. Okay, a person who keeps on asking why, again, a person who keeps on asking why something is so negative, what they're going to have eventually, they're going to come to a realization that life is negative. Right? Just look around. There are people who goes around there and asking, why are there so many evil people in the world? Why are there so many unfairness? Why do I keep on getting sick? If you keep on asking the question that is against your desire, you don't want to be sick. You don't want evil in the world. But if you focus on the thing that is against your desire, then you're going to experience a reality that is against your desire. You're going to realize that, oh, people are just evil. Oh, illness is just a part of life. Oh, I'm not going to get any better. Or we start to blame other people, right? We blame our parent, we blame external circumstances. So this part is very important, and very few people understand this. Okay? This is a correlation of the principle of light. Okay, if we're focusing on the darkness, essentially we say, why are there darkness in the room? Or how do I remove the darkness? Right? If I'm sick, and how do I remove the darkness? How do I get rid of my illnesses? That's are you trying to get ill? No, you're interested in health. You're not interested in illnesses. Don't focus on illnesses. Don't ask the kind of question relating to illnesses. Ask the kind of question relating to health. How do I become more healthy? But if you ask a kind of question, how do I become less depressed? How do I become less or not anxious? Okay. Or worse, you become a psychologist or a doctor and you explore pathology. You explore mental illnesses. You know everything there is to know about illnesses. And so now your reality is full of illnesses. You know more about illnesses than you know about health. You still have a person who knows everything there is to know about mental health is going to be a great psychologist, but he won't be able to heal anybody because he knows all the problem, but he doesn't have any answer to how to become a healthy person. Right? You can write a great essay, you can write an encyclopedia about all the mental health pathology, and yet you still do not know what health look like. Think about that one. So very powerful bit of knowledge. Okay, I hope this gives some realization to you guys. Okay, if we ask the kind of question that align with what we want, so identify what we want. Okay, we identify what we want, and what we want is the positive, right? We want health, we want happiness, we want peace, we want good relationship. Focus on the health, focus on the relationship, focus on the happiness. Don't focus on the problem, because when you start asking the question about the problem, you're gonna eventually come to a realization about the problem, and that's your reality. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see. So another way to change this, another way to write that picture is the inquiry, right? Your inquiry. Okay, your inquiry has two directions. If you inquire positively, you're gonna get desired outcome. If we inquire negatively, you're gonna get undesired outcome. Okay. And this is still part of the law of causality, because the outcome is the fruit. Outcome is fruit. Okay. The inquiry is the seed. So you can begin by practicing, right? Vince asked, how do I practice? Even if I don't have time, you can do this anytime during your work. You plant the seed of positive inquiry instead of negative inquiry. Positive inquiry are the things that align with your desired. Negative inquiries are the thing that goes against. Okay. Aligned with desire. Aligned with desire. Okay. Negative would be aligned with desire. So negative would be against desire. Okay. When you are against your desire, you're gonna get undesirable circumstances. Okay. Seed and the fruit. And that is called the principle of alignment with desire. Okay. So if we want to get where we want to get in life, if we go along that boat and the current is going from A to B, this is a current. And we want to align ourselves with the current, we inquire along the line of what we desire, so we're going to get the outcome that align with what we desire. Inquiry, okay? So all realization is a shift in perspective. The shift in perspective comes as a process of inquiry, and the inquiry has a direction. Okay. When you apply these, what you're going to find is that oftentimes you don't need to solve life's problem. Oftentimes, you will be able to simply stand above life's problem, because you will, when you start to inquire along with what you desire, you will find that the problem is not really a problem. You will stand above life's problem. You experience a new shift in perspective. Let me use an example in my own life. It's silly little example, but I used to have a problem of forgetting my keys inside my house. Okay, I would leave the key in the house, and I would go to work, and I would lock the door from the inside, and I would simply close the door, and the door would lock. Then I cannot get back inside the house without the key, because I had left the key in the house. Same with the car, right? Any of you ever left your key inside the car and then locked the key inside the car and you can't get into the car? Or do you know anybody like that? Anybody here ever locked themselves out of the house or outside of the car? Okay, so I used to have this problem where I keep forgetting my key inside the house, and I would lock myself out. The key is inside the house, I can't get back in. I have to climb the window. or at some point it cost me money. I live in a place where I could not reach the window. I had to call the locksmith. He came. He had to break the door. He had destroyed the lock. Cost me a lot of money. I had to pay the price for forgetting the key inside the house. And so if I had inquired along the negative, why do I keep on forgetting my key? Why do I keep on forgetting my key? How do I solve the problem of my memory with the key? I thought I had a solution. I thought that by solving the problem, how do I remember or not forget my key? I would do a mnemonic. I would count 1, 2, 3, wallet, keys, and phone. So my pocket, every time I get out of the house, I would count 1, 2, 3, wallet, keys, and phone. As long as I have my wallet, my keys, and my phone, then I'm okay. It worked for most of the time, but at some point, usually when you're busy, when you're in a hurry, is when you forget to do the 1, 2, 3, wallet, keys, and phone. And so during those times is when I forget the keys inside the house, I would lock the door and I would lock myself out. So that didn't solve the problem. The problem comes back because I had focused on the problem, and I tried to remove the problem by coming up with, a solution to the problem. And then one day I had a small realization. I realized that if I keep on depending it on if I keep on locking my door inside, there is always a chance that I would pull the door lock before I take the key. And so what I did is I chained the lock. I made the lock so it could not be locked from inside. I made the lock so it has to be locked from the outside with the key. I just changed the lock so it has to be locked from the outside with the key. So even if I forgot the key from the inside the house, I would pull it, and then I realize, oh, it's still open, it's not locked yet. Then I have to go back inside the house and get the key and come out and lock. I didn't solve the problem of my memory. I didn't solve the problem of forgetting my key. I still occasionally forget my key. But my memory with respect to my key is no longer a problem, because I had changed the lock to require me to open from the outside. That is how I was able to stand above life's problem, thanks to an inquiry along the line of positive desire. Because what I really want is to have access to my key. Okay? Another way of thinking about standing above life's problem is like this. When a flood comes, an engineer who is great at solving problem would build a dam. Okay, when a flood comes, Vietnam has a lot of flood every year. It floods and people's house will be full of water. An engineer is a person who is great at solving problem, and I definitely need engineers in my life. Okay, I'm not saying that they are not useful. They are, but an engineer would try to build a dam to prevent the flood. But a wise person simply stuck up a inflatable boat. He just rise above the flood. That's it. So instead of taking the trouble and the effort of stopping the flood, which is going to come anyway, you just rise above and you float on top of the flood. Just a little silly example. I hope that helps. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Any lesson, impression, and realization before we move on to the next one? Mental activation time, guys. Practice, practice, practice. What did you find that was new? What do you think that is applicable? Did any light bulb come up?
Not only spousal relationships, it's family relationships that go against our what we believe in or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like you listen to the negatives, and I need to start focusing on the positive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about Vince and Jihua? Did you get anything new from what we have shared so far since the break about lesson, impression, and realization, or about the principle of alignment with our desire, or anything? I love the fact that you guys are contemplating. I can feel the wheel churnings in your head. But if you can express it in words, that'll help turn those thoughts into material reality. If any, just one thing that jump out. Anything new to you, Vince, since the last hour?
I recently experienced some failure. And
Okay.
asking myself, why you keep failing? I will start it. Say, what how do I'm successful based on my bad experience? Is that right? Instead of asking myself, why am I keep failing? Okay, I ask myself, yeah, how do I be successful based on my failure?
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I think you got it. I think that's the core of the teaching. Okay.
Yeah.
In fact,
I do a positive inquiry. How do
yeah.
I be better based on
Exactly.
failure?
Mm-hmm.
How do I make myself?
Okay. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That positive inquiry, right?
Yeah. 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 How do I become successful?
Yeah.
Okay. And here's the thing, let me ask you, are there successful people in that field that you're working on? Are there people who already solved those problems that you're trying to solve?
Yes.
Yeah, go learn from them.
That's my mentality. Yes.
Yeah, go learn from them.
Yeah.
So instead of focusing, why do I fail? You're gonna come up with a million reasons why we fail. And a million reasons why we fail will still not give us the answer. But if you are already inquiring, okay, how do I become successful? And instead of letting pain and experience teach us the lesson, we just go and get it from people who already succeeded. Right? We can read, we can take classes, we can study from people who have already walked the path, and we learn from the best. There's a saying, we see far because we stand on the shoulders of giants. Okay? So it is rare that we actually have the need to reinvent anything. On occasion, we will come to brand new realization that nobody ever knew before. We'll learn about level 4 wisdom later, where we come up with brand new, knowledge in a way that Jesus and the Buddha, they came up with. But most of life's problem can be found by other people. Nowadays we have Google, we have ChatGPT, okay? And so instead of suffering pain and experience, trying to figure out on our own, that's kind of like going against the current. We simply go to the people who already have the answer, who already succeeded. And if we learn to be grateful for those people, then we can attract a lot of those people into our lives. And then we will have ready instant answer to a lot of our inquiries. And our life can be pretty simple, pretty straightforward if we can surround ourselves with people who already have answers. Right? Imagine you surround yourself with people who are expert at every field that you ever need, and all you got to do is ask them. In order to do that, we'll need characters, which will arise out of positive attitude and a degree of wisdom. So you're doing the right thing, being right, you're asking the right question. Okay, thank you, Vince. I love that question. Yeah, that's sharing. Yeah, you get it. You're totally getting the material. Okay, let's move on. Okay. Okay. We're gonna go to another principle, very important principle. We're gonna learn about a principle called the circle of knowledge. Okay, so we're talking about knowledge, right? We want to raise our awareness, expand our wisdom, get to know things and realize things so that we can create the kind of life that is happy and healthy for ourselves. Okay, that we have to come to know things. Okay. So consider that we all know things. Right? We know things. We have knowledge. At the same time, not only we know things, we know that we know things. We know, and then we know that we know. Right? That's an interesting about being human, is not only we know, but we also know that we know. Right? And so I'm going to draw a circle around this knowing that we know things and kind of represent everything that we know. Okay? So we're going to represent everything that we know in this little circle. Okay? Now, there are things that we know, but we have forgotten. Right? We know things that we have forgotten. I used to know the address to the first home when I first came to the United States, but I don't know it anymore. I've forgotten it. And would you agree that the stuff that we know but have forgotten is more than the stuff that we know, right? The stuff that we know right now, and we know that we know it, we can recall, but the more what we have gone through life, remember that's that curve of remembering. The curve of remembering say that we actually forgotten most of it. Okay, so really the circle of stuff that we know but we have forgotten is bigger than the stuff that we know that we know. You agree? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we know things, but we've forgotten most of it. We only know that's, immediate thing that we use. And then there's the stuff that we don't know. I don't know how to fly an airplane, but I know that I don't know how to fly an airplane. So it actually interesting that you know that you don't know things. Now, there are many things that I don't know, but I know that I don't know. I don't know how to fly an airplane. I don't know how to speak German. I don't know how to write in the Chinese language. Okay. I don't know how to, I don't know, do 23,000 squat just yet. There are people in this philosophy who have reached a level of serenity and physical vitality that they can do 23,000 squat. I don't know how to do that just yet, but I know that I don't know how to do that. Okay, I know that I don't know. And it's a simple matter to go and get to know the stuff that you don't know. You can just learn it, right? You go to the people who already have the answer. You can read it from books. You can learn it from the masters. Okay, you can, and then you notice that the stuff that we don't know, but know that we don't know, it's a lot bigger than the stuff that we know but forgot, and even bigger than the stuff that we know and we know. And going really slow. So do you get this so far, right? Yeah, make sure you shake your head when you understand it. Okay. There are things that we know, and we know that we know. I know I know how to do math, arithmetic, plus, subtract, some multiplication, division. I know how to do calculus, but I have forgotten it. That was in high school and college. I went to high level math, but I have forgotten it, haven't used it. So I know, but I've forgotten it. And I know that I've forgotten it. Okay. And then there are so many things that I don't know in this life, but I have an awareness and knowledge that I don't know it. And it's pretty big, right? You can imagine there are so many things that we don't know, and we are aware, or we know that we don't know. There's so many things. And then there are the stuff that we don't know. But we don't even know that we don't know. Ooh. Okay. Can you imagine the stuff that we don't know, but we don't even know that we don't know? Can you name one thing that you don't know that you don't know? Anybody want to give that a try? Name something that you don't know that you don't know. We can name something that we don't know, but we know that we don't know, right? I don't know how to speak German. I don't know how to do 23,000 squat and still survive. But I can't name what I don't know that I don't know that I don't know. And so you can imagine this circle out here is like almost infinite. Right? There's so many things that be outside of our knowledge, outside of our perception and awareness. So many things that we don't know. But since we don't know that we don't know it, not part of our awareness at all, we can't even name it. We can't even begin to get to know it. I can only get to know something when I know that I don't know it, right? If I don't know how to speak German, then I can go to Duolingo. I can go to school because I know that I don't know it. But if I don't know that I don't know, then it's outside of my perception. There's no way for me to get to know something that I don't know that I don't know. So the circle is nearly infinite. But to simplify it, we're just gonna, close it
I
up for a
don't
little
know what I don't know. I don't know.
bit. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So with the circle of knowledge, what I know that in this whole principle, there's a benefit to learning this circle. On the one hand, we kind recognize our boundaries of knowledge. Right? By recognizing that boundary of knowledge, we can consciously, proactively choose to go and expand whatever knowledge that we want. If we know something that we don't know, that's great. If we know and we forgot, yeah, it's probably not important. We can always go back and make it part of our knowing again by relearning it, by reminding ourselves. Like I said, we practice the principle of mental activation by thinking about what we just learned so that we don't forget it. And if there's anything new that we don't know, but we know how to go get it, we can take classes. At the same time, it can help us get a sense of humbleness when we realize that what we know is so little. What we know that we know, what we know but forgotten, what we know that we don't know is so small and limiting compared to the vastness of the thing that we don't know, right? It kind of makes us a little humbling, okay? And so, fortunately for us, in this study, not only did we learn a little bit of informational knowledge, we also come to transformational knowledge. Okay, so transformative knowledge. So let me tell you a story. Okay, there is an old farmer with who happened to have a friend. Okay, they grew up together. They were in the same town, but this friend went up to the city. He got an education. He got a PhD. And one day he came back to town, and he wanted to express his knowledge, that he has learned in the city after many years of meeting his old friend. The old friend is still in the poor rural country. He's still a farmer, and the rich friend asked if his old friend. He say, "Do you know about the politics of the world?" Because he went to the city and understand the politics of the world. And the old farmer friend said, "No, I only know the rice field. I only know how to plant. I don't know anything about the politics of the world." And so this very knowledgeable guy who went to the city and said, "Do you know anything about astrophysics? The stars, the planet, the galaxies?" And the old farmer said, "No, I don't really know anything about the stars and the planets. I only know the rice field and the season. I only know how to, plant rice. I'm just an old farmer." And the very knowledgeable PhD guy said, "Do you know anything about business? In fact, if you know how to do business, you can make a lot of money and, not be poor farmer for very long." And the farmer said, "No, I don't really know anything about business." And then the poor farmer asked his very rich guy now, I say, "Do you know the difference between a lover and a wife?" And the which PhD guy, oh, what do you mean, a lover and a wife? Well, and the farmer said, well, wife is somebody you have to sleep with every night because you have to. A lover is a woman you want to sleep with every night because you want to. And then and so you get the sense that that's a funny little humor story. It shows that we may know a lot, but our knowledge may not be relevant to our own life, may not be conducive to giving us the kind of life that is healthy and happy that would really want. The poor farmer, he doesn't know anything, he doesn't know a lot, but he knows something that is important. He knows the difference between a lover and a wife. He doesn't need to know about the stars. He doesn't need to know about science. He doesn't need to know about businesses. But all he needs to know is that there's a difference between a lover and a wife. And if the lover is the wife, that's a pretty good life. Right? Okay. So it goes to show that we only know what we know. Okay. So I want you to write that down. Kind of help us a little bit. You can say we only know and what we know. Okay, in other words, there's a limitation on what we know. And because we only know what we know, doesn't matter if we know the planets, the stars, the politics of the world, or the great religion, if we can't even know the simple difference between a lover and a wife, then we're not going to ever be having the kind of reality of a person who knows the difference between a lover and a wife. But a person who knows the difference between a lover and a wife, and who can make the wife a lover and a wife together, same person, oh, that person can experience at least 1 out of 4 areas of holistic health, right? Happy relationship. So we can be humble and not have the need to be overly prideful and arrogant about what we know. Right? So when the benefit of having that circle of knowledge is that when we interact with people, we don't need to be overly arrogant about what we know. We don't even need to impress upon other people what kind of knowledge, how much knowledge we have, because they may possess some knowledge that is very transformative, that makes them happy and healthy and peaceful. And if we have a lot of technical knowledge, worldly knowledge, and if that doesn't give us the kind of life that we want, then what does it really matter to have, knowledge in the first place? Okay, does anybody get that? Hope that's a little bit of a gem. Did you catch that, Jihwa? What's the difference between a lover and a husband?
It's a good one.
Okay, husband is somebody you have to sleep with. A lover is somebody you want to sleep with. And if they're both in the same, then you got it.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Good.
And then consider this. Okay, consider that when we speak to another person, okay, so now we are going to interact with another person, whereas this one, it just kind of talk about our own circle of knowledge. Okay, what we know, we forgot, what we know that we don't know, and we don't know and don't know. And that is our own circle of knowledge. We can be a little humble about how little we know, and we don't have to be too arrogant about how much we know. And at the same time, we don't have to feel inferior when we speak to somebody who is very knowledgeable. A poor farmer can talk to a PhD or doctor, a great scientist, and not have the need to feel inferior. Lack of knowledge, remember the barriers? Okay, the 6 barriers of life. Why we don't have to feel inferior about our lack of knowledge, because we may possess some knowledge that the very knowledgeable person does not. If we kind of possess the kind of knowledge about inner peace, about healthy living, about happiness, then maybe the other person who is knowledgeable about worldly thing may want to learn from us. Right? That is one way that we can non-materialize our material being. To have knowledge about human life and experience, to have a full grasp, imagine that a full grasp of human life and experience, that we can explain everything about human life and experience, how to be happy, how to be at peace, things like that can be pretty valuable. Right? So that's our own circle of knowledge. So let's consider what happened when we speak to other person. So let's pretend this is the other person, right? Everybody have their circle of knowledge. They know, they forgot. That what they know, they don't know. And then of course they have the vast knowledge, don't know. So when we speak to another person, consider that we can only speak to another person using what we know that we know. Okay. Right? When I'm speaking to you, I can only tell you what I know. Can I use what I know but forgot to tell you? No, I cannot use what I forgot. It's not part of me anymore. Can I use what I know that but don't know and tell you? No, I cannot use what I don't know to tell you because I don't know it. Even though I know and I don't know it, but I haven't gotten to know it yet, and therefore I don't know it, and so I cannot tell you what I don't know. And obviously, it's silly to even talk to people about stuff that you don't know. So would you agree that when we speak to another person, we can only speak from the circle of our knowing and knowing? We know and we know that we know, right?
Something
Simple.
different. Like I know what I want to say, but when
Yeah,
I
go
go
ahead.
say it, it doesn't say the same thing. It doesn't
Try
say
anyway.
what I
Throw it
know.
out there. Okay.
What's
Well,
that?
are you trying to say something? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I was
okay.
just saying, I know what when I'm talking to somebody, I know what I want to say.
Okay.
It doesn't come out the way my head's thinking.
Oh, okay. That's fine. That's fine. That's okay. Okay. And the circle of knowledge is not, it's not fixed. It's a flow. It's, it's flexible. What you think you know, and then what you know and you forget. A lot of that has to do with the human construct. Okay, we'll learn about the human nature later. We'll learn about our desire and imagination. We'll learn about many things that limits our ability to communicate. We'll learn that inner peace gives clarity, and therefore it will help us express with clarity and authenticity. Okay, sometimes it is different parts of our human nature that gets in the way that prevent the message from deep inside from coming out. It is the human nature. It is the mind that playing tricks on this. Once we get clarity, then that will go away. Okay. And I experienced that myself too. I'm sharing, and on occasion I would want to say something that'll come out totally different. That is because I have let the human nature, the mind, get in the way. The way to do that is initiate serenity. Be at peace, and clarity will come to you. Okay, that takes a little bit of practice. That takes a little bit of realization. Okay, but anyway, can we agree that when we are speaking with another person, we can only speak from our circle of I know that I know. That's simple, right? Now here's the thing. When we tell other people using what we already know, right? Is there a chance that it will touch upon what they know that they know? Yeah, they all have their own knowledge, right? They know things and they know that they know it. Would you agree that it might touch upon what they know, but they've forgotten? Right? Yeah, it can. Right, let's say that person used to know calculus, but they've forgotten it, and you talk about calculus, it'll touch upon, the part that they've forgotten. So when you talk to another person, and there's a potential that it will fall into the circle of what they know, but they've forgotten. Okay. And of course, when we talk to another person, we can only speak from our circle that I know, but it may fall into the circle where they know that they don't know it. So that's new to them. Right? Basically, if it falls into something that they know but they don't know, and it's new to them. And of course, there is a possibility that you talk to a person and they have never heard it before, they didn't even know that they didn't know it. It'll fall into their don't know circle. Now, here's the thing, there's some possibility that may happen when we talk to another person from the circle of our own knowing. When we talk to another person and we touch upon what they know that they know, several things may happen. They may agree with us, they may disagree with us, or they may not matter. If they agree with us, great. If they disagree with us, we may argue. But either way, when we speak from our own knowing and it touch upon another person's knowing, it doesn't contribute any new knowledge. You just, okay, you might get an agreement or you may get a disagreement and you end up in an argument, but you haven't contributed any new knowledge when we tell somebody something that they already know. Okay? Right? Now, there's another possibility. When we speak to another person, it touch upon what they know, but they've forgotten it. Okay? What they know, but they've forgotten it. Great, you have reminded them. Right? When you tell somebody that they know, but they have forgotten it, that they know they forgot, then you have reminded them. But here's the thing. If they have forgotten something in the first place, then it was not important to remember in the first place. Right? If I had already forgotten the address to my first home in the United States, and I speak to you and you remind me of the address in my first home in the United States, great. But you haven't really contributed any new value. Especially since the fact that I have forgotten it is not important in the first place. So you have not contributed any knowledge value to another person when you speak to them and you touch upon that which they know but they forgot. Right? Yeah. So, okay, fine, nice conversation, but there's really no value being created. Of course, similarly, when you speak to another person from our own knowledge, we can only speak from our own knowledge, and it touch upon that which they don't know, but they know that they don't know. Well, if they don't know, and they know that they don't know, and the fact that they still know that they don't know it, that means it's not important enough for them to get to know it. Like, let's say a person doesn't know German, and we want to teach them German. They don't know German. They know that they don't know German, but it's not important enough for them to go and learn German in the first place. So you teaching them German contribute no value. They just don't bother to. Okay, fine, nice. You taught me a new word in German. They'll just forget it again because it's not important in the first place. You get that? You have contributed no value to a person when you tell them something they don't know, but they know that they don't know. Okay? And finally, if we tell them something using what we know, and it touch upon the circle of they don't know that they don't know, they become mentally paralyzed. It is like a concept that is completely foreign, It is like speaking a completely different language, and that person has no conception of what that language is. It's like, I don't know, it's like you trying to tell me something in the language of the Philippines. I don't know Philippine, well, and that falls within my don't know, but it's kind of imagine speaking to somebody in a language that they have no conception of the language. They've never heard it in the first place. And so they get sort of mentally paralyzed. You could curse at them, you could say bad things about them, they would have no idea what you just said. Even if you have wonderful value that you wanted to express to another person, but if it falls within their don't know, they have no conception of it. And so you have contributed no value whatsoever in terms of knowledge to another person. So what do we do? In every human interaction, are we not sharing knowledge? Are we saying things, our experience, our facts, our feelings, our opinion? In every human interaction that we share with other people, we either fall into that which they know. If they know it and they know it, then yeah, they could agree with us. It's nice, but if they already know it, then you don't contribute any value. Or worse, they could argue with you. If we tell them something that they have forgotten, then they know they've forgotten it. That's great. You reminded them, but they've forgotten in the first place because it's not important. And so we reminding them didn't really contribute any value either, because they will have forget it again. Same thing with they don't know. Okay, if they don't know it and they know that they don't know it, they didn't bother to get to know it. And therefore, whatever information that we tell people is not important to them. And that's why we go through conversation with people and they forget the conversation. And there's, day in, day out, we talk to our coworkers and our family members, and we walk away and we don't gain any new knowledge, and they don't gain any new knowledge. And of course, if we say or do, say something that falls within the don't know circle, and that's, it is as if we didn't say anything at all. So how can we contribute any knowledge to another person at all? Okay. And so let me tell you the story about my master, our master, right? the masters of this philosophy. Well, there are many masters to this philosophy, but the one who founded the organization, when he was a young guy, he was a very knowledgeable guy, a scholar. Okay, he has a thirst for knowledge, and he had the desire to express his knowledge to other people. He wanted to share with his knowledge. He often visit a Buddhist temple, a Zen Buddhist temple. And he visit and he likes to talk to the monk there. They are knowledgeable people as well. One day, our master went to the temple and he saw the head monk, and the head monk was reading a book. Okay, and he decided to approach the head monk and try to strike up a conversation, see if he can learn something. And as he was approaching, he saw the head monk reading a book, and he asked the head monk, he asked the master, what are you reading? And the head monk said, just some scripture. But to be honest with you, I just read it, but I don't really remember anything. I read it, but I don't remember anything. And so our master, young man at that time, very knowledgeable. In fact, he had acquired the skill, the capability of reading quickly and retention, the material that he read. And he proceeded to share his knowledge with the master. Considering this old master who had just read a book and didn't remember anything, he wanted to share his skills, kind of like that way I shared with you how to remember, the curve of remembrance, right? We want to share with you how to remember things. So he went through the step-by-step process, and he wanted to teach the old monk how to retain the information that he read. The old monk obliged the young master, obliged him and let him speak for a while. And after a while, the old monk smiled and said, to be honest with you, young man, it is not the case that I've forgotten what I read. It is a case that I have erased my memory after I read. Okay? I've intentionally erased my knowledge of the scripture that I read. And so our young master at that time was taken aback. Okay, was a passionate young man. He wanted to grasp knowledge, and he see this old monk, and the monk is telling him that he is raising his memory. Why? So he asked, old master, why would you waste time reading only to erase your memory? I mean, is the purpose of reading not to gain knowledge, right? The purpose of reading is to acquire knowledge. Why would you waste time reading and then to gain and then to erase your memory? And so the old monk said, well, think about it. There are many people come to this temple asking for guidance, asking for wisdom. If I tell them what I know, in fact, many people who come here are more knowledgeable than me. They are PhD, they are doctors, there are students of the scripture who memorize the entire scripture, who knows the scripture more than me. If I tell them using what I know, they will not understand. And therefore, I have to erase what I know and tell them using what they know in order to help them understand. Let me repeat that, okay? If I tell them using what I know, they will not understand. But if I erase my memory and tell them using what they know, then they will understand. And so our young master took him a long time to contemplate that. Okay, he didn't get it right away, but through the years of contemplation and thinking and practicing, he came up with this circle of knowledge to explain that idea. The idea is that if we use what we know and we talk to other people, we cannot really help them. We cannot contribute any new knowledge to them. The only way to do that, and there is a way to do that, is to speak to another person from their circle of knowledge. We begin with what they know. We expand it, and we see if we can expand the circle of knowledge. Maybe touch upon what they've forgotten. We begin with what they know, and we expand it and see if it is something that they don't know. Maybe they don't know, but they know that they don't know. We begin with what they know and see if we can expand it all the way out into the stuff that they don't know, what they don't know. And so we keep on doing that. We keep on beginning with what the person know, and then try to expand their awareness and perception, maybe touching upon what they don't know, but they know that they don't know, essentially teaching them something new. Or when they go from the know to the forgot, you're reminding them, right? When you're in this sharing, have you noticed that some of the things sound familiar, even if it's the first time? Right? Even if it's the first time that you're in a Zoom or get exposed to this knowledge, some of the stuff sound familiar. You had already know it. But when the speaker begin from your knowledge, what they do is they establish where you're from. They ask questions like, every time I ask about your lesson and impression, what I'm doing is I'm establishing what you know. And from using what you know, I try to expand your knowledge to eventually open up your circle of knowledge. And as I do that, yeah, I inject some of what I know, but the lesson here is you begin with the person's knowledge. You don't just jump in and give them what you know, because that's gonna conflict. Immediately they're gonna disagree or agree, or immediately they're not going to be interested because they've forgotten it, they don't know, or they get mentally paralyzed. So the only way to help other people is to begin with their knowledge, their circle of knowledge. Do you guys get that so far? And most effective speakers and teachers always begin with this. If we try to help a child with their homework, let's say a child comes home and said they need help with homework. Okay. Let's say the child is learning algebra and they're struggling with algebra, and they come home and they ask you to help with the algebra, and you jump in and you try to teach them algebra. But if you don't try to establish whether do they actually know how to plus and minus yet? Do they actually know how to the multiplication table yet? Then it's impossible to teach them algebra if you don't establish what they already know. Maybe they had forgotten half of the multiplication table, or maybe they have been struggling with subtraction and division, and therefore their algebra ability is compromised. You don't jump in and teach them algebra. You have to establish what they know. So we have to help them raise their awareness about subtraction and addition, multiplication and division. Then we go into algebra. That is how the great teachers of elementary school do. They make sure the student have the fundamental before they can build on the fundamental. Bad teachers are the one that blame the student for not knowing. Good teachers are the one who recognize where the students stand, help them get to the standard, and then expand their knowledge. And salespeople also do this very effectively. They always begin by asking, what are your interests? They don't just jump in and sell you a product because they have no idea what you know and what you don't know. Right? They may sell you a product and immediately you may reject it because it's already part of your circle of knowledge. You already have some preconceived knowledge about it. But sales great people will always begin by establishing what you already know about certain product, and then they build your knowledge about that product, open your awareness about it, and elevate your appreciation for the product. Effective bosses are the same thing. If an employee make a mistake and a boss just jumps in and tells an employee that you made a mistake and that's bad and that's wrong, well, maybe the employee wasn't trained in the first place. It's not the employee's fault that they did something wrong. They did not receive the appropriate training, so that they didn't have the appropriate awareness and the perception, the importance of certain tasks within the company. And so you always have to begin by establishing what the other person knows. Okay, so basically this is us. We, how to say we? This is we. We always begin, we can only recognize that, from a humble perspective, we only know what we know. And the beauty of this principle is that we don't have to know much. We only know what we know, and what we know is very limited. But we only need to know a few key principles: universal law, universal principle, natural law, how to be happy. And when we speak to other person, we establish what they already know. Okay, this is them, this is we, this is they, or them, let's say them. Okay, them, we. And how do we, so the question is, how do we get to know what they know? How do we establish this part? Okay. We do that by asking. You ask. Okay. With what? With as humbleness and genuine. Let's do authentic. Okay, we're gonna use the authentic later on. Authentic desire to know. Okay. You ask with humbleness and authentic desire to know. Okay. The interaction between the young master and the old wise monk can be summarized as, and I'll just rewrite that with the following statement. You can write this down as a motto or something that you can post on a wall and remind yourself. If I speak from my own knowledge, then others will not understand. This is part of a practice, okay? But if I speak from the knowledge of others, then they will understand. Okay? The benefit of this is two things: the character of humbleness and the character of authenticity. And when we speak to another person with genuine or authentic desire to know, we will begin to express the character trait of a person of good character of humbleness, a character of authenticity. People would respect us for being a person of good character. Okay. And at the end of the lesson, when we start to get to character and integrity, we will discover that a person of wholesome character is a person of success. Okay, there's a person that is an environment where people want to be close to, and when you are the kind of person that is an environment where other people want to be close to, success will come to you very simply. Okay. 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 And so there is another slide relating to knowledge. This is how we can help another person transform, how we can help another person experience a greater level of awareness and perception. It begins with knowing, comprehend, realize, and transform. So how do you help a person transform? Okay, this is a formula, so to speak. In order to help a person know something, we need to establish the belief. Okay. Some people has a strong belief in the scientific perspective, science. Some people have a strong religious or spirituality, spirituality. Other people just need common sense or morality. So if we want to help another person come to some new knowledge, we need to establish the belief, the reference system, speak the language. A person who is very science oriented isn't going to be interested in a topic related to religion, and spirituality. A person who's very spiritual may disregard common sense. And vice versa. A person who has a lot of common sense and morality might not be interested in religion or even science. So you gotta listen with humility, humbleness, and a genuine desire to understand and to know them and establish their belief. And we use what they believe to help expand their knowledge. And in this philosophy, we use all three. Okay, we use the scientific approach, we use the religious and the spirituality approach, we use common sense morality approach in order to help everybody expand their knowledge, to come to know. Okay, because some people are going to be more one way or another, and that is how we can help expand another person's circle of knowledge. If a person already have certain knowledge, now that have knowledge, what you want to do is in order to help them comprehend, we base on then what they know. Okay. So if we already established what they know, then we can use this circle. If we can establish what they know, I don't not so interested about what we know. We just use what they already know, and we expand this circle. Right? Try to give them something that maybe we don't know, but if they're gonna fall into what circle until we actually say it. But if we know what they know, then it's gonna be helpful. Okay. And that is the next part of helping them comprehend. Right? When we know, when we grasp what the person already know, we can help them comprehend it in a deeper, more expansive level. And then the meat of the, the important part is that if we can understand what people have been inquiring, especially a long time, then we can help them come to a realization. We can give them the kind of answer to their inquiry and help them realize based on what they have been inquiring. So in our conversation, those of you who are studying to be mentors and masters and you want to share knowledge and you want to help other people, we have to understand this formula. In order to help anybody with anything new, you have to establish their belief. If you don't know what they believe, then you will have to approach them from all three angles, from the scientific angle, the morality angle, and the religious angle. Once you understand what they know, then you help them comprehend. That is why I keep on asking you guys for your impression, your lesson impression, your realization, and your question. Right? If you have a certain question, like earlier, Vince asked a question about how do I practice this kind of thing, right? Those are kind of inquiry. Okay, and finally, if we understand what a person desire, then we can help them transform. A transformation is simply a change in perspective, change in understanding. In the business world, a change from not wanting to buy to wanting to buy. Here, transformation is about realization, a certain truth about health and happiness. But if we can establish the desire, for example, if I know Vince wants to experience mental health and physical health, then it's going to be more simple for me to help Vince if I know that he desires that. Otherwise, if I try to sell health and happiness to people who don't care and don't want health and happiness, it's not going to work. They're not going to receive it. Okay, so that is part of the principle of the circle of knowledge. Okay, this is a principle of circle of knowledge. Okay, and I think we need a break. Everybody took a break on their own. I'm gonna take a break. If you guys come back, just know that we took a break. Okay. Do a 15-minute break. I need a break.